Hey everybody, welcome back to Love Music More. Scoobert Dubert here, about to chat with Gustav Brunn. Gustav is a Swedish Grammy Award winning and several times nominated for mixing and mastering in Sweden, and he brings a really cool perspective from playing hundreds and hundreds of shows, touring the world in a hardcore punk rock bands, and then transitioning into the studio world as, he becomes a dad. And I think it's like a really fun conversation about work-life balance and output and the value of studio work and kind of how studio work can breathe life into other people's careers, into other people's artistry, while providing an opportunity for the engineer to have a more quote-unquote normal life. So Gustav, always love talking to people from Sweden as well, just because of their music industry and their cultivation of talent is so different than here in the United States, where you feel a little bit more on your own sometimes. And it's nice to hear about kind of the other opportunities, maybe the other ways of life that we could consider for arts in America. So I hope you really enjoy that conversation with Gustav. Before we do, I'd like to introduce our title sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists get to keep 100% of royalties and earnings. And through our show, you can get 30% off. Just use our code distrokid.com/VIP/lovemusicmore. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music onto Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the other major streaming services. More and more are being added. That's one of my favorite things about DistroKid, is that I'll get a little alert and it'll be like, hey, you can upload to TikTok now or whatever. And then you can just go in and you can check that box and send it out to a new platform. So you're always up on the industry trends, and you can also check out your stats from inside of the app. Once again, 30% off. It helps support the pod, helps support your career or your hobby or whatever you want to do. It's just fun to get music out there, and DistroKid's unlimited, so you don't have to feel weird about like, oh, I made 10 songs this month and I made 2 songs the next month. It's like, whatever, doesn't matter, release them all. So go to distrokid.com/VIP/lovemusicmore to get started, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Gustav. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Love Music More. I am Scoobert Dubert, and I am joined with Gustav Brunn, who is going to take us on his journey across live bands and his love of Southern California, all the way from Southern Sweden, and then take us into the studio and across live sound and just his varied musical career, all in the goal of making you guys love music more. So welcome, Gustav. Thank you for joining us.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, I have to deliver as well, right?
Yeah, no, you do.
I'm going to talk shit for more.
Exactly.
Amazing. It's great to be here. And like I told you before, it's my first podcast, so be gentle, be nice.
Yes. Oh, I will. This podcast is known for hard-hitting hot takes and a lot of tension. So how did you get started with music? And also, where are you right now? Just so the listeners can get a sense of the global nature of this conversation over the internet.
Absolutely. So I am located. Yeah, I am in Lund, in the south of Sweden, in the county of Skåne, which is like the Texas of Sweden, just geographically, mostly. But the very south of Sweden, in my studio, I mostly do mixing and mastering here. You can see some guitars, you can see some other shit. But so that's where I am. And like how I started with, like what
hooked you? How'd you get the bug?
The music bug.
The music bug.
I've been thinking about it many times, and I remember like none of my parents were musicians. My father had a guitar tuned in an open chord, so he could play slide guitar, and it was also kind of good to. It was easier to play because it would like be a major chord if you just held your finger. Yeah. So I guess it was standing there, and of course I was intrigued, like guitar. And then he made me like he told me the first song I played was it's a Rolling Stones song. It's like Take me to the station. Got no expectations. It's called. It was like 55550 55557 55. Yeah, it was great.
Perfect.
And my mother, she played a lot of music at home. She grew up in Brazil, so there was a lot of Latin music coming from her speakers. And both had vinyl collections with the big covers that were intriguing. You saw them standing there, you're like, what is this? So I had access to music. And this is, by the way, in the 40s. I'm 90 years old. No, but so it was like vinyls. I'm born 87, so cassettes and vinyls and CDs. But we had mostly vinyls. And both were like like consumers, listeners, music lovers, but nothing more than that. And then okay, this is it. 2 movies.
2 movies.
Terminator 2.
Yes.
And Wayne's World.
Yes.
Because I think both came in 93, 94, okay. 92, yeah. 94, somewhere in between. And I was like 5, 6, and we could watch, we watched Alien. So like my parents would let me watch anything, but Terminator 2, I think Guns N' Roses, the shot where Arnold Schwarzenegger rides the motorcycle down the LA River, and it's like a Guns N' Roses song from Use Your Illusion. I think I can't remember which one, but it's like, how can you not just love it? And of course, and Wayne's World. I remember clearly. You've seen Wayne's World?
Yes, of course. Party on.
Amazing. Otherwise, I would just hang up on you. But when they go to the Alice Cooper concert, and I remember feeling like what is this dangerous thing that sounds cool and looks like nothing I've ever seen. And I remember I have a big brother. He's like 20 months older than me, so quite close in age. And I remember we had these like teddy bears, like what do you call them? Goosey, cuddle bear, whatever.
Yeah, teddy bear, like stuffed animal.
And we took pencils.
Yeah.
And started a band with our teddy bears. So like you could play guitar if you held it like this, and then he had like 2, so he could play drums. And then we like played along to songs and had a band called the Fuzz Bears.
The Fuzz Bears.
Don't steal it. If you go on Spotify, there's probably 7 bands called the Fuzz Bears.
Exactly.
One is a stoner rock band with and so we were, and like me and my brother, we was, you want to discover stuff and music, and we grew up quite poor, so we couldn't go and buy CDs. Like a CD was 150 kronor. That was a lot of money for us then. But we lived on top of a secondhand vinyl store. Like really,
no way,
like
really.
This is the entrance to our apartment, and to the left is a secondhand vinyl store. So I remember when I think I turned 10, or like 9 or 8 or whatever. I wanted the Alice Cooper album, Hey Stupid.
Cool.
And I think I didn't get it. I think I got like Best of Alice Cooper, and the song wasn't on it. It was like School's Out, like from the 70s. I'm like, what is this lame thing? I wanted Hey Stupid. Anyway, I'm super grateful anyway. And I think and from there it was like you would go down there and just browse the hard rock, and you're like, Iron Maiden. Like what is like the most beautiful artwork, colorful, dangerous. Yes. And you would just, I could stand there for just watching. I had no clue. But then my best friend, the guy I told you, we're going to segue into that later, who moved to San Diego. Yeah. He lived on the same street as me, and he had a even older brother who were like into. So he would play music, and we would like steal his. When he wasn't home, we would sneak into his room and like put on. He had like, of course, Rage Against the Machine. Yeah. I think every generation goes through a Rage Against the Machine phase. and like a Nirvana phase.
Of course.
But and like Bad Religion and a bunch of other stuff. So then it quickly, like, then I knew, like, okay, I'm gonna play guitar.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to make these crazy sounds.
Was it that original guitar that made you be like, I want to play guitar? Out of all of the, instrumentation, this stuff has got really heavy drums, it's got vocals, all these things. What was it, because you had access to that guitar that made you be like, I want to do that?
Great question. I never actually thought about it, but it's a valid question. I think it must have been because, like, my dad had an electric guitar.
Yeah, right. Access.
Yeah, it's a good question. Why? Because my brother started playing the drums later. Maybe because if we both play guitar, it's hard to. I don't know.
Right.
But it's a good question. And then from there, like, I knew, and then when my grandpa he passed in like 97. I was 10 or 11, 90. I think 97 or 96. Then my dad got like some money from his what do you call it?
Inheritance.
Inheritance, exactly. Yeah. Not a lot, but I think the first thing he did was go to the music store and get me a Squier Stratocaster and like a Fender Frontman.
Yeah,
I love him for that.
Yeah. Yes.
Changed my life.
Yes.
And then I would just plug in my guitar and like turn the gain all the way up.
Yeah.
And then just do like, I'm gonna like this.
Yes.
Imagine with like tons of gain and do like. And it would almost sound like Yngwie Malmsteen, almost. And then of course, you sort of play like do 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 do, like breaking the law and like one note stuff, and like Black Sabbath stuff.
Yep.
So that's sort of how it was the like hard rock got me into music. I'd say like wanting to play music.
I love
there. Yeah. Go ahead.
I love how you kind of like highlighted these things, like music as these like little magical items, these like artifacts. You like hold up this vinyl. I feel like sometimes, we lose that, or we lose that childhood wonder or whatever when you like pick up an instrument, be like the magic that's inside of this thing, or the danger of like hard rock music and like the aggressive, colorful album covers, like all that stuff. That's really cool. It's like fun to like rethink of that, because I felt the same thing. But sometimes you lose that. You like lose like that's what it was like looking through the eyes of a child at this thing that we still do.
It's also just the dramatic me, but also like talking about it makes me go back, and I love it. It was such big moments. For me. And then my best friend who lived on the same street, who had a brother with a Bad Religion record that moved to San Diego. That guy. He also started playing guitar, and he got I got a white. Like off-white Squier Strat, and he got like a black Squier Strat. I was like, man, yours is black, mine is white. But and then we started, I think in like 5th grade, you started having music lessons in 3rd or 4th grade, I think. Oh, and it takes me back. I remember we would, in the music class, we would like learn how to play guitar. So like 15 kids would sit in a circle with an acoustic guitar and play like. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry. So like D, G, A7. And I remember it was fucking hard.
Yeah.
So I would wait on the D until it came again, like hang down your head, Tom. Cry. And then I would eventually learn like the ECG, and then whatever.
Yeah.
And now I fucking shred.
Hell yeah.
But and then we started a band, and we found some classmates, and we wanted to play like hard rock. And they were like, we want to play blues rock, and they were like, so lame. So we kicked them out of the band and found another drummer and a bass player, and then we had our first band in year 2000, I think.
Nice.
13, I think. Yeah. And then it segued quickly, because we never had a singer. I remember we had my brother played drums. No, a guy named Nils played drums, and Nils played drums. I mean, like drums, 2 guitars, bass, and we were like, no one can sing like Bruce Dickinson. What are we gonna do?
Yeah, what are we gonna do?
I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah.
And we're like, how do we find someone who sings.
We're trying to make an Iron Maiden style band. We need an Iron Maiden style singer.
Exactly. And then, so there was this amazing place called Hemgården, which is like a youth center.
Okay.
And we're going to talk much more about that later. But where we found the practice space, it cost like nothing. You had to be like a member for $2 per year, and then
that's cool.
Fine,
that's great.
Subsidized.
Yeah.
And then like we had like you have a lot like allocated time, like Tuesdays at 7. And so the band who came in after us every week were like these like crust punks, with like fucking leather jackets and like all these back patches and like discharge. And I once like they came like and came into our room, and then like the other guys in their band were late, so we were like, can we just play one more thing? And then we like said it was like good vibes, no hard feelings. But then we were like, hey, wouldn't you like I was like, I have this new riff, can't you just take the mics and like, I don't know, scream or something? And it was like a more of an up-tempo thing, and we played it, and they just because they had just renovated the practice space. It was like this it was in the basement, so like this window up here, and you had to take like off this thing to access the window, and like the guy who installed like the handyman had written like lift up, pull out, but in Swedish lift up dra ut, and like had written a message like, please take care of your practice space. It's lovely and renovated. Kind regards, the handyman. So they would be like, lift up to it, and like read it, and just like that's verse 1 and the chorus, and it was amazing. And then they joined our band, and we became a punk band instead.
Amazing.
It was
amazing. I love that.
That was my first 2 bands.
Yeah.
Now for a quick commercial break. No,
exactly.
But
Hey everybody, Scoobert Dubert here. I'm excited to announce my new record, I, as in the letter I. It is available on all streaming platforms now, as well as on Bandcamp with high-res .wave files. So usually you hear the compressed MP3s or things to the streaming services. These .wave files, they sound the best. They absolutely do. It is science. I'm actually going to be posting a blog article about why waves sound better than MP3s, and that leads me to my next topic. I started a blog, and we are pressing vinyl. So whoever is subscribed to the blog is going to get first dibs on the limited edition vinyls. We're talking like some super, super limited edition. I think they're only doing like 10 or 15 of the, top shelf stuff. And then there will be other really cool colorways as well. But the whole vinyl run is not that big because I'm not that big. Hopefully someday we'll be able to press more. But until then, you gotta jump on it now. So join the blog, join that mailing list. It's all free. And then you'll be able to get first dibs on that vinyl of I as it's being pressed. And on that blog, we're also going to be doing stuff for like show notes and other musical topics that require a little bit more visual component. So for example, I just did a pod not too long ago on musical notation throughout the history. It'd be kind of cool to see like what it actually looks like throughout history, right? And that's what the blog's here for. It'll hit your emails just like every Tuesday morning is kind of what we're looking at. And it'll just be a nice extra little way to love music more, expand the understanding from the podcast, and also hook you up with some exclusive perks like first dibs on vinyl records. So anyway, check out the new music. Hopefully subscribe to that Substack. You'll find the link in my show notes, or you could go to lovemusicmore.substack.com to sign up today, and we'll send you some emails. So enjoy the music and enjoy the rest of the episode. I mean, that's also like a great example of like the community, that those community spaces or practice spaces. In my situation, it was like churches. We would have these like little rec rooms in churches, and we'd take them over and beg people until we could finally get the keys, so then we could come in after hours and like play, and then you'd get kicked out of that church because you did something bad and you got to go to a different church because we didn't really have practice spaces where I was at. But I love the idea of like, just you have built-in community if you have a community location that you're all shredding in,
Yeah, it was amazing, and because it was like a youth center, and but it was, of course, there were like adults and like people working there, but everything was so very DIY and like community feeling in terms of you had to become a member for nothing, and then you had access to everything, like a pool table. You could do whatever you want, and then they wouldn't organize, like they would sometimes organize like fishing trips, but then would be like they would just ask the kids, so where do you want to go? And they would be like, I don't know, where do you want to go? So I don't know, to like to that place there, the lake. Okay, let's go to the lake. So they would. I don't know if it's sort of a special type of what do you call it, like
instruction or teaching or method.
Like method of teaching, like to just and that was such a powerful thing as a child, but like a teenager, to be given all this responsibility, because, and so eventually, like they had concerts, but like when we started putting on like hardcore punk concerts with like touring bands from Sweden and abroad, like we would organize it, and like they were just like, you can use space, here's the PA and everything, and like, but we would be the organizers. And when I was I don't know, 16, 17, we were putting on shows ourselves, and like entry fee, we need to calculate. So they wanted $200, so I think we could put like 30, 40 people. So what would be, it's just amazing. Whatever.
I love that.
But that place was amazing.
I think that this kind of stuff is so interesting, especially with Sweden, because Sweden punches like way above its weight in terms of impact in the music industry, and like the total population versus its total impact. And so I love looking at these little things about like the youth groups, or these like knowledge circle things that I heard that you guys can do, where you can like have like 4 or 5 people be like, we're all going to learn this hobby, and you get a grant from the government.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's cool.
And for me,
it's
that's like normal. Like how can it not be? But of course,
we're on our own over here.
Exactly, except for churches. But that's
except for churches.
You have that's a culture on its own, right?
It is,
like,
absolutely.
And you
sort
of grow the absolutely best, at least drummers. No, but musicians.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Because that's like you kick our asses in that field. In terms of like virtuosity.
Yeah, virtuosity. And having church spaces that cultivate that and pass that on, where you have like elders in the church that play in the church band teaching the younger drummers. And it becomes its own little community center. But it's interesting because there's like a void. there's a gap
so
that we just lack.
We gotta go. Yeah, exactly. No, but Sweden's great. And I have 2 kids now. I have a daughter she's turning 4, and my son is turning 2. And I'm awesome. Like, I sort of course, I want them to want to play music, but I'm trying not to choke them. I'm like, I have like a filicorda, like the organ, small one, and like a ukulele, and they like look at it and like sometimes, but I think if I try too hard now, you're definitely not going to do it later.
Right.
It's just going to be there like a Chekhovian rifle. You get that reference? You get that reference?
It's got to go off. You can't.
Amazing. Yeah. I love it. No, but exactly. It's got to go off after, before Act 3 is over. Yep. But it's just going to be hanging there on the wall. Yeah. For now. Anyway, I don't know why I said that. But now I have kids as well. But yeah.
No, but I hear what you're saying in terms of like the differences in cultural experience, in access, and then also, like trying to raise a kid. Like you're trying to do a little bit of what brought you to music, which was your own curiosity and having these things, the access and the curiosity, and then the cultivation.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you try and force it on somebody, it might almost shut off the magic. It might make it never seem like something that is attractive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just needs to be accessible.
Yeah.
But that's how I started.
Mm-hmm. And then you went. Then you went from that, formed additional bands, and ended up touring. I saw that you played like 400 shows with Atlas Losing Grip, which I listened to before taping, and I really enjoyed it. And it did. It reminded me of SoCal, and I wanted to ask you about that. I was like, this sounds like some SoCal. Yeah.
Exactly. No, but like so I had like my hard rock era, and then came the punk era and like hardcore punk era. But just kidding about the eras, but there was, I think later on we started that band in 2005 when I was 18, 17, I think I was 17, gonna turn 18.
Yeah,
in the same youth center, like an older guy.
Cool. Sweet.
He's he was 7 years older than me, and he was a fucking shredder on guitar, and he also loved heavy metal. So I was like, can we just go down and play guitar? And he would make me play the rhythm guitar for like Iron Maiden songs, so we could just go off and shred on top.
Sweet. Awesome.
I was like, wow, man, that was such an inspiration.
Yeah.
And then years later, we I can't remember exactly how, but like a bunch of different bands formed with the same members in that group of friends, and you know, but then we sort of we need to like we really need to start like a skate punk band, because at that point I was really into like Bad Religion and NoFX and like Lagwagon and all these bands.
And when did Tony Hawk Pro Skater come out? Because I feel like that.
Okay, yeah, thanks for mentioning it. I think that must have been 1999, I think. Exactly. No, actually, you know more about me than. But that was such a you know, big thing.
Totally.
Because exactly that's how it was. I was really into hard rock, and then like Tony Hawk came, and everyone at that youth center played it. Like there was this line to play, and like you would hear like Goldfinger, Millencolin,
totally,
all these things, and I would be like, fuck, I really like, this is kind of soft, but it's like it's almost like have you ever listened to German power metal, like Halloween or so I fucked a lot with that, and then I was like, this is the exact same melodies and chord changes, only that it's not a double kick, it's just a single kick. And like the tempo, like Dragon Force is skate punk with a double kick drum.
Cool.
You know,
yes, love that.
In my opinion,
that's a great way to put it.
It really is, though. No, just kidding. But anyway, so and then when Tony Hawk came, I was like, this is fucking awesome. And then, of course, the whole skate culture was really intriguing. I tried to skate myself. I sucked at sports. Maybe that's why I succeeded in music. Yeah. So, can you tell you really succeeded? No, but just kidding. But sports wasn't for me. I had and still have asthma, like pollen allergy. Like going on a football field was I tried, but you know, I could run 20 meters and then I collapse. So I just retreated back to the practice space.
Yes.
Turned the gain up, and so then we started a skate punk band. My brother was on drums. Stefan played guitar, and then we recorded a demo at first. And this is sort of how I got into recording.
How did you record it? Yeah.
So let me think. We did a demo in 2006. I think I did that, actually.
You did that?
So, like the band,
cool.
the band I had before.
Yeah.
Sort of. There was this guy at the youth center who was working there, and I really looked up to him a lot. He played in punk bands, played guitar, and he got this Fostex. Like Porta Studio cassette.
Those little digital. Yeah. Did it have the CD burner built into it?
No.
One of my friends had one of those.
Cassette. This was cassette. This was the cassette. Like even I think it was a Fostex or Tascam. It could have been a Tascam.
Okay, yeah.
But I think you could record 4 tracks, and then like you could ping over the tracks to like save up tracks.
That makes sense.
I'm to this day I'm not sure how it works. But he would record the band before, and then. At that point, I had started, is high school like year 10, 11, 12? Or Yeah.
9, 10, 11, 12, usually.
Exactly. So I really sucked in school, like up to 9th grade. And the only thing that, like, I loved music, and like, but I would be like a total jerk and like the clown of the class, and I wouldn't pay attention or do my homework. But when I realized, to get into music high school, I need to have a certain amount of points.
Grade.
Grade, exactly. Like I had to have decent grades. So that would be the only thing to motivate me to actually do my homework. Otherwise, I would just play guitar. And
Yeah.
I remember I got into music high school. I was like, fuck yes. What was I saying?
We were talking about your first recording journey and like
exactly.
learning how to-
Exactly. So then at that point I had started high school. And they had a studio. I was sort of like, looks interesting. And then we had recorded once with this guy, and not sure why, but I was really sucked into that as well.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with like manipulating sound and like
Yeah.
having control over something.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Totally.
like initially. And then the youth center where we practiced and hung out, in 2005, they built up a studio upstairs with like a DG002 interface and like a powerful PC and like one outboard reverb. And then I would learn Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then in high school, I had the course was like a recording course.
Cool.
In
Incredible.
10th grade. And
High school. Love it.
and they had these HD24. You would like record onto a hard drive. That was looked like a military grade. You had to pull this thing out.
Sweet.
Like a NAS or whatever. I don't know what it's called. But and they would have an analog desk, and I would do my like exam work would be like record a song, and then I recorded my own band, Atlas and Grip.
Great.
That was our first recording, and I remember dialing in the sounds on this analog desk, not a SSL, but a shitty, I don't know, Allen Heath, whatever.
Alan
like you would
Heath
have the
catches
mix
strays.
on, you would have the mix on there, and then they would like, okay, then you would record it onto the hard drive, like the 2-track you would print. And I was like, yeah, fuck, it sounds great. And then my brother played drums, and he was like, when I wasn't looking, he would be like, kick drum. Like push up the fader. And he told me like afterwards, I got a A on that anyway, but I didn't really notice, but it was just such a dick move to like, he's like, yeah, more kick drum. That's kind of funny.
That is funny.
But then, sorry, I'm all over the place. But then that was our first recording. And then I recorded our first proper demo in the studio at the youth center. And then I recorded for the second demo and the first album, we got the guy who used to record my old band to do it.
Yeah.
But from that point, I did most of the recording and production for us. And then at the same time, I started like recording when I learned the ropes in Pro Tools and like, okay, I was really bad, but I wanted to do it. And I recorded all the other bands in the practice space. I think for my first job, which I actually, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a wall of records up there. I'm going to show you later. But this, you could see it's like,
I see,
proper crust punk. This Lickers is like but this was my first paid job.
Cool, awesome.
I think it is. But and I charged $1 per hour.
Yes.
We recorded 24 songs in a day. And then I mixed it for them. And I was I think I was at that point, there's something with like having a sound in your mind. And then, in the beginning, you have a hard time dialing it in because you don't know how EQs and compressors work and all that.
Totally.
And I was trying to sort of make them, this is like, like D beat. And I was like trying to make them sound like Toto. So they said like, I said like, and at that, back then you would like mix down, burn it to a CD, give it to them.
Yeah.
And then they said like, no, it's fine. Like we can rip it and put on more distortion at home. Because they wanted to sound like a vacuum cleaner, like,
right. Yeah.
It was too clean. I know that now. Well, that was quite
Sorry to interrupt this very important broadcast, but it's time for one more advertisement. for myself for this podcast. What I'm asking for is for you to rate it 5 stars, share it with your friends. This is like the most important thing for this podcast to grow. So if you want to do this, you go onto the podcast screen, right? You click on the ... on Spotify. Under there, it says rate show, and you go and you click it. 5 stars. If you could do that for me, that's the best way for the algorithms, all this stuff, to share it out with the world. I know that it's a lot to ask, but if you could please just hit those 3 dots and then a 5 star, it would really help us out and helps us, get the word out and spread the love of music. So thank you. If you're listening on YouTube, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. And here's the rest of the episode.
So I started recording all the other bands.
Yeah.
And mostly punk rock, hardcore.
What did you learn
metal.
during that time? Were you like learning, what are some key insights that you might be able to give of was it learning how to put microphones in front of things? Was it learning how to decide what you're going to process later? Were you going to try and do on the amp? Like anything that kind of came out of those early sessions?
Yeah, I like most things sounded like shit, because it was a shitty interface. I didn't know it at the time, but the interface was shitty. We had Shure mics, 57, Beta 52, blah blah blah, all the standard stuff. But and my room here, I think this is 25 square meters. The recording room was you could fit a drum kit in there.
Yes.
But then no one else could stand in there.
Yes.
But you somehow you learned to how to manipulate that as well. But I just need a
little
sip of water. But
I'll tell you while you're taking the sip. My first one of my first recording things was, we have a college here in North County, San Diego, called Miracosta, and they started a recording program. This is maybe the first year of this recording program, so they put out a call for local bands, and I jumped on that thing. We had about 25 different students all trying to mic up our gear. It was absolute just a mess. People were dropping microphones, and students were running around and getting tangled in cables and breaking stuff. But it was great because I got to kind of watch the process and then also hear the professor guy critiquing all of their decisions. And I got a ton out of that recording session, which was for free. Just by almost being a student as I was being recorded. And then we got to keep all the tracks and take it home and mess with it, manipulate it by ourselves. It still doesn't sound very good, but at least that was a nice little trial by fire without us having to be on the hook as the people that were getting paid to do it.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I think what helped me was because I was doing rock music.
Yeah, right.
I recorded actual instruments, so I never I never used I had a kick drum. It sounded like shit. I had to EQ it like a Swiss cheese to make it sound good.
Yes.
So I would just and I think that's I'm gonna sound so old, but a lot of people who only work with samples, they have a great sounding kick coming straight from Splice.
Right.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Mix ready. It says blah blah blah. Mix ready.
Yeah.
And why would they go and record a kick when they can get a kick? I couldn't get a kick from Splice.
No,
if I could,
exactly.
I would probably put it in there. But I think what was good for me was, I don't know. I think I did 100 recordings between 2006 and 2012 over the course of 6 years. And that's 100 different drummers, 100 different drum kits in the same room.
Yeah.
Same mics, and then I would try different techniques. I remember one of the later recordings, I started realizing, okay, it's because it's such a small room, it's never going to sound huge. I would use reverb and shit, but then I just realized, or I think the older guy I told you about earlier, it was why don't you just open the door to the control room? It was bigger than the actual recording room.
Yeah.
Put 2 mics there. You can sit with headphones and just shut up during takes.
Yeah.
And then I did that and put a Waves C1, the worst compressor in the world. That was what I had access to. And compressed the hell out of it. I'm it's starting to sound like drums,
Yes.
So I don't know, I guess experimenting, of course. I'm not a big experimenter, actually. I'm more of the type of, I find something that works and I stick with it, and I might adjust, but I'm not really the adventurous discovering type of experimenting engineer, but I'm more methodical and I guess. But otherwise, I don't know what to tell anyone. Just go out and do it, and don't be scared to do it. It's gonna sound like shit for many years, and just keep doing it, and know that you will end up, if you have the will and the grit and the you need to persevere. You just need to persevere and just march on.
Yeah,
I guess.
And
don't
I
get
love
put off by
I love the tenacity kind of aspect that you're saying, and then also adding that in with almost like experimental design, where you're keeping these things static and then changing other things like the drummer or the drum kit, but you have the same mic locker, you have the same room, and so now you're able to understand, like, okay, given this input, I expect that output, and then over time you get to know all of the different tools so intimately, and that's one of the reasons why I recommend to people to like embrace not having budget in the beginning, because if you can buy a million different microphones, you're not going to learn them all. You're just going to have a whole bunch of different microphones, and you'll see whatever people on Gear Sluts or Gear Space say, like, hey, use this on snare, and they're like, oh, I will be prescribed and I will use that on snare, instead of like getting to know your own mics. And if you only have a 57, if you only have a 58, if you only have like 2 mics, that's great. Get to know them intimately, try them on everything, and then add as you like develop and master something, then you can add on more tools rather than trying to add every tool at once and thinking you need have everything to be a real studio. It's like you kind of need the skills more than the tools.
Exactly. And one thing I just realized is when I started, like I wanted my drums to sound huge, but I couldn't. And then at that point there were no like slate trigger. It was this thing called like
sound replace.
I remember.
Just for the listeners, who don't know what this is, they're these little sound replacing things. So like a trigger, like you hit an actual snare drum, and then now we can go on Splice and pick out a million different types of mix-ready snare drums. And then every time that the drummer hits their snare drum, even just a blend of that mix-ready sound can be triggered, can be added in that exact moment. So sorry,
exactly. That's good. And then, but when I started out, there was like this shitty thing called Drumagog, and it wouldn't work. It would be like, you don't know it?
I don't know. No, okay. No, I'm a little bit younger than you are. Trigger was my first foray into
that's good.
Into this. Yeah,
but then I think Trigger came in. I think I got it in 2011,
something like that. Yeah,
2012, I think.
Yeah.
But
I was probably a little later to that game.
I refused to sound replace, even if I could do it like manually. Of course, I could like copy a great sounding drum. Yeah. But I refused. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to mix drums, because if I start using samples, I'm just I'm shooting myself in the foot. Because
totally. And then everything's going to sound the same. Like one of the things that's weird about triggering is that you lose so much of what the player's actually offering. Like a kick drum in particular, kick drums are so hard. I still have trouble with kick drums, especially if they're not recorded very well. But like there is nuance to kick drums that like drummers play with a ton of dynamics, and you want to be able to capture all of that. When you start triggering stuff, it just goes squish.
Exactly. And you need to do it with style, I think, because I think actually that trigger is actually quite amazing, because it has like it detects the velocity and triggers like okay, this is a soft hit, and there's like infinite amounts of hits, so it's actually quite natural. But I just refused to. I said like, okay, I'm gonna learn to mix drums, and then I like deserve to use trigger.
And then there you go. I like it.
And now, like when I actually can actually mix drums well, I'm like, I might use it but usually if it's like. Usually I just trigger a room mic sample of a kick and a room mic sample of a snare. And just blend it in, just to give it more, a room and
natural and
exactly.
I did the same thing with Melodyne with this project with Scuba Doers, like tuning vocals. I didn't let myself for a long time even go there, because I just wanted to like get good at actually singing and like like actually delivering the song. And I was like, you know what, like nobody really cares. Nobody's really listening. Like I'm making this project, I'm making this music for me. And like more recently I do it more because I want it to sound a little more modern, but it's more of like a stylistic choice rather than something that I was using in some other projects more as like a crutch. Like, this is a hard melody. I'm going to go into it knowing I'm going to tune the vocals. It's like, no, like go into it like you're going to sing it live. Same thing with drums. Like, figure out a way to make it sound good. And then, you can add in some sweetener. You can take it to the next level if you need to, if you want to, if it's stylistically appropriate. Yeah.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
Back then I only had like auto-tune, and that would be, I hate, like, back then it would be like, auto-tune was like pop, and we wouldn't use that for punk rock.
For sure.
But, and there were some bands were like super triggered, and I didn't want that. I wanted it to be more organic, sort of.
Very like new metal
so
sound.
Then I recorded all this, like, no, exactly. But I we were recording my band, recording all these bands, starting that, and then we started touring in 2009, I think.
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah.
And then, like, we disbanded in 2016, I think. So over 8 years, I think we played around 300 shows.
Cool.
Plus, minus.
Incredible. Yeah.
Plus, probably. So that was all we did. And then when I was home, I would be recording bands and doing some lives. I started doing because we would be putting on shows in our in that youth center with like hardcore punk bands.
Yeah.
And I think there was, like, in the punk rock and hardcore scene was such a great community as well, because it's sort of, sort of a niched subculture, sort of.
Yeah.
And everyone would know all the bands, and you would sort of be someone, because you don't, the world is not your audience, but the nerds who are into this is the audience.
Yeah.
So, and then
exactly.
So we would be like touring and playing. We would like invite bands to come play our venue, and helping. It was sort of kind of nice, actually.
Yeah.
And then people would sleep in our flats, and we would stay in people's houses when we were out playing. Questions.
No, that's interesting. And then, so what did you find was different between kind of like live sound versus recorded sound? Did you see overlaps? Was some of your skill set that you like had EQing drums and things like that? Did you go like, oh, I know what I'm doing, or were you like learning on the job? Did you have any mentors? How was that transition for you?
Like, I think because it's a huge difference doing sound in a in a small room, like the room we had, the official capacity was like for 50 people, but we would be like 120 people in there sometimes. But then you had the PA.
Yeah.
The stage was so small, so it's like, okay, vocals, kick, and a DI'd bass is in the PA, and the rest is the amps in the room.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense to try and make a perfect balance in the PA, because then we'd have to turn down the amps. Like, it makes no sense. So I think, and at first I only did sound in like small venues. So I think I learned how to actually listen to the music and not try to, if you, and that's one thing. Just listening to what is actually coming out, and what do I really need to mic the guitars.
Right.
Because you're listening, as like in the center of the room, you have 100-watt Marshall amps. You don't need to turn them down to put them in the PA.
Yeah.
Like, you just make a good balance of it. So I think listening.
So many people don't do that, though. It's crazy.
No.
Because they like have to mic everything.
In churches, you would have like plexi walls. No, but no, I guess, and I guess. Sounds like I'm sitting on the answers. I don't, but. I think if you go to school, they learn you just have to go out there and try it in the real world. And I'm not the first to say, and I'm not the last one to say it, but there's no school who can teach you. Like, you can't like these days. If I do a show where I'm not bringing my desk and I need to make a sound check from scratch, which I sort of did the other week. I was in Paris and London doing a show where I wasn't with a band at the production rehearsals, so I had to do the mix during soundcheck. So, but like, you can't listen to the kick drum for 5 minutes and make the perfect EQ. I think that's a common, like, because you would usually have like from left to right drums, you know. So like you'll be hearing like, can I hear the kick? And then like the drummer's like, after 12 hits, he's just bored, and you try to, and it makes no sense. Makes more sense to like, okay, what's important? Like we're on, like usually you're on a time crunch, right? So you put up the vocal faders. There is gonna be bleed. Like you can't isolate everything.
Yes, right.
So use the bleed. It's like put up start with the vocal mics.
Yeah,
we're gonna have cymbals in there. They're gonna sound pretty bad. But then when you start sound checking the other shit, you're not gonna, you know, high shelf plus 5 dBs on the overheads. You might
because you're gonna get all that.
Because you have the
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
What I wanted to say was, I don't know. I sound so old when I talk.
No.
But,
what you're saying is a valuable. There's music, and then there's audio. There are some things that can be taught. There's textbooky stuff, but then there's other things that can only be learned, which is like a very paradoxical, weird thing to say. But in audio, most things cannot be taught. It can only be learned. You have to go do it. You have to play with it. And that little insight is a perfect example, and one that I think anybody that's listening to this is going to go do live sound should consider. Yeah, what can you not deal with? There's always going to be bleed. And so you're going to have all this high-end, gross stuff that's going to go into all of the vocal mics. And especially if you have a band with a ton of singers, sorry, like there's going to be tambourine everywhere. Exactly. So do you really need like a big tambourine mic? Do you have to like focus on that too much? It's going to be everywhere.
Exactly. No, because and what I wanted to say, thank you for making me realize the difference between studio and live work is live, you have a time crunch. You can't listen to the kick drum for 5 minutes. You need to work fast and make it work. And then you during the first song, in the event of you know, doing a sound check and then show, you know, but you know, these days I tour with my desk and we have production rehearsals, so I have time sort of. But usually when you start out, you don't. You just go somewhere, open the door. I'm going to do sound today.
And they're like, come on in. Only one speaker works. The sub's broken. Have fun.
No. Been there.
Been there too.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that you learn. I think also because the way I think when I mix live sound these days is not so much, and I sort of, you know, I've been mixing in Pro Tools for 20 years. It's a long time.
Oof.
It's a really long time. But in the beginning, I just remember I didn't have like a fader I could touch and ride. You'd like write the automation with your mouse, and I still do. You know, when you're just going to grab a section and bump it up. But what I started doing is I started, you know, writing things and because that I got that from live doing live sound is like. These days, I do a lot of master fader. You know, okay, chorus is coming up. You know,
cool.
Just to, I'm mixing for my 13-year-old self in the audience, watching my God playing, and I just want to be overwhelmed and run over by a bulldozer. I just want the emotional overwhelmedness of if the act calls for that, but usually there's, you know, moments. But I try to, you know, I know where my faders are. Usually, you know, I have like I have this is my lead vocals and this is my either like music group or like if it's just a DJ and a vocal. So it's like it's always the same. The muscle memory is the same.
Cool.
And I recommend that as well. And I know exactly where everything is. Which means I don't have to look down. I can just, you know, be in the show and try to just, you know, okay, take it down. You know, now we're gonna push the faders, and now we're gonna. And I usually have a Space Echo, like a Roland guitar pedal.
Cool.
With batteries.
Cool.
Sounds better.
Wow.
Sounds better on batteries, especially when they're on 50%. It distorts so nicely.
Yes.
Love it. But and I usually, because I'm not the guy who's like standing there putting the levels and then like sounds pretty good. I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
And like if I have nothing to do here, I'll just I usually the lead vocals. The send is up all the time, but then on the Space Echo you have the input knob, so it's sending all the time. But I can throw in the words with the input.
Ooh, cool. Yeah.
And then I tap it, and you usually see me standing. I don't tap once, man.
Yeah.
And then trust it. I tap because it's somehow that tap is like it restarts with every tap. So it would be like it would jump into the right tempo.
Yeah.
And then I just throw in the words, and I try to just make some, because if you have like a rapper, and on a backtrack, some acts I tour with or like that, then it's like you can build like these 8-note ad libs with like da da, da da, So I try to add stuff to it, not not cross the border of it being silly, and I to this day I don't think anyone ever told me not to do it or do it less.
Yeah.
Because I'm really mindful of it's not like if it's like a 16 bar, not gonna do it on the last word on every, but I try to make it like, okay, so and then oh my god, I hate my voice. And you need to talk some. What? Okay, let's talk about you. Just kidding. No, but I don't know. I'm just talking. But
no, it's fun. I think I think it's interesting to talk about, different takes on what, live mixing looks like, ways that studio can influence live mixing and vice versa. And I love the idea of, writing those faders, being an active participant of the music and recognizing that music is this dynamic living thing. I think it's very weird for live mix engineers. I hate it personally as a performer when they just disappear. They're like, sounds good, job's over.
Oh my God.
It happens all the time, man, and it sucks. You'd be like a festival or just a house mix engineer, and they just are gone. And it's like disrespectful to the music itself because it's growing, it's changing. Things can shift at a moment's notice, and when you have someone like you feel so much more supported. And in the same way that I sometimes have a problem now that I've gotten pretty decent at recording and mixing. With live stuff as a performer, because I can hear all this stuff, I can, and I'm like, I know how important the little things can be between sounding really stupid and really badass. And it's like, it's subtle shit. Like, oh, you use too much delay. Not cool anymore. Oh, like this vocal is like too wet. Not cool anymore. Too dry. Not cool anymore. And these things shift from section to section. Like all these things, they're important.
But then it's also, because I remember playing it, like doing sound and when we were touring, and then like the drummer would always be like, why don't you like go talk to him and I'm like, I wanna be the guitar player.
I know, totally.
Like sometimes I would, but I try to shut that off.
Yes.
Like, and just because I think it's equally important. I mean, it's not cool to walk out of there, but it's equally important to have a good relationship.
Absolutely.
Because you're gonna be there all day.
Yes.
Together.
Yes.
I guess even if they walk out and are being jerks. You both want it to be a good show.
Yeah,
I guess.
Right.
Maybe not the sound guy who walks out as much, but and I think like if you would be like can you put it at 1.6?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
No.
What I want is somebody I can just trust on the other side. That I know that I can't hear everything because I'm just in my in-ears or in the monitors. They're hearing what the music actually sounds like. I trust you. You're doing it. Yeah. That's what I want. And that's the thing that makes like playing live right now not feel very fun, because I have to set up the video cameras, I have to get the band right, I have to figure out my own stuff, and I'm working with like a house engineer. All of those things together make it be like, oh, I can't even like have the brain space to perform and just be present.
But that's why when you like reach a certain level, you get your own sound.
Absolutely. Person. For sure. Like before almost anything else. That's why, like,
no.
Yeah,
because then you can actually perform better because you don't have to think about it.
Totally.
But I think also, like, I think I become a better, mixer in the studio and especially live sound engineer, because I've been on the stage. I know what it's like. I know what, and this also segues into my interest of, or like the inevitable thing that is like group dynamics and the psychology of things. That is so important. And I think if like during the pandemic, I was like out of live jobs, especially, but then the studio kicked off really well. But I was like, at a weak point, I was like, I might have to go to school and learn a proper job. Then I would be thinking about like psychology, studying psychology, because that's a thing that interests me in music as well. I know, like half of these records I made, you know, with pretty shitty musicians. You would have like a great drummer, and then like the second guitar player who's like, you know, he's gonna put down his parts, and he's bad. He's not that good, and it sounds like shit, and he can't tune his guitar. I have to make him perform. So that's like the you know, old school record producer me. But I was like that, and the engineer, and you know, way back you would have different guys, of course. But I really enjoyed, but it was like part of what I had to do, of course. But to just like see, like, okay, how can I like keep, you know, keep track of the time. Like we can't run out of time. We need to be finished tomorrow. You have to put down seven guitar solos and like rhythm guitar 2 on all these tracks. I'm like, okay. And if you're too stressed, he would freak out. And you know, you have to. I think you have to be sort of gifted in social encounters if you're gonna succeed. In especially, at least, you know, especially like if you're a recording engineer. I guess a lot of bigger sessions, you would just be a recording engineer, and there would be some sort of executive producer in the back, and you would just be the, you know, Pro Tools operator mostly. But if you're actually gonna produce and record, you need to have people skills. Like people skills above technical skills will make you more money in the end. I'm sure of it. You need to be you need to learn how to read people and leave space when it's needed, and push them when you have to do that in the right way. Yeah, it's interesting.
I'd love to know kind of how you navigate now your work-life balance. You know, father to how do you manage? You know, telling somebody like me with no kids, like how do you go about that? How do you keep the music flowing while keeping your life?
How old are you, by the way?
I'm in my early 30s.
Early 30s. Okay, I'm in my mid to late 30s. But anyway, I think I was really scared before getting kids of like how, you know, I'm used to like working a lot and like many hours, and people are expecting things, and I'm the worst at setting boundaries. Really, I'm super afraid of conflict and like people pleaser. It's like you can you know, yeah, whatever. But when I finally had kids, I was forced to make it work. And to me, it's sort of in how I am and my personality is, if it's just forced upon me, I just, you know, I have to make it work. Like it's like these days, I most days I leave my kids at, what do you call it, kindergarten? What do you call it? Exactly at
Daycare,
9.
Whatever. Yeah.
I bike to the studio. I work for 6 hours, and then I pick them up at 3:30. So I have 6 hours to do like 8 projects. It feels like I'm always constantly juggling 8 projects, like mixing and mastering. Yeah. When I'm not touring as well as a sound guy, but I have an assistant. It helps. He's prepping. He receives the stems for mixes, and he has like a Pro Tools template with like just the routing and the sort of standard stuff and effects.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's always laid out the same.
Nice.
So I had to like be efficient, and then he preps it for me. Or puts it on the hard drive, and I can just open it and start mixing.
Nice.
And the rough mix would be in Metric AB, this wonderful plugin that you can like. And I have a Stream Deck, and I just he programmed it for me.
I just got one.
But you have the big one. I just have the small one. But I have my logo.
Ooh, that's cool. That's cool.
He did that as well. He's amazing.
I want to do that. That's awesome.
Anyone born 96 and later, you're tech freaks. I don't know how you acquire all the information, but it's amazing to have one on the team. And he's great. But I have to be efficient. And there's some, it's not Murphy's law, it's a guy's law that says like it will take as much time as you, I'm really misquoting now, but some guy's law. Do you know this law?
Yeah.
It's called
basically like it fills the vessel that you give it.
Exactly. So if you have 10 days to finish it, you will finish it in 10 days. But if you have 1 day, you will finish it in 1 day, and you'll make it work.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm constantly on, Some days I sit here and I don't get up. I get up to pee and have my lunch. I usually have the same lunch. I have like a blender that I do a sort of smoothie with stuff in.
Nice.
So I don't have to leave this room, which sounds depressing, but there's not,
I'm in this
depressing. Industrial area.
Yeah.
There's not much around anyway. And I can spend the mornings with the kids, and we can hang out, and I work. And then I pick them up, and then we play, and then we have dinner. And of course, sometimes I go here. If I have a lot of deadlines, I might work in the evenings and weekends. But so like I work only 30 hours a week, but it will be probably 40 with when I'm away touring. So I don't work a lot. I don't work 80-hour weeks. You don't have to. Like in the beginning, like back in the day, I would. But,
yes, totally.
And I just tried. I'm just super fast and efficient, and I have great speakers.
Cool.
It helps.
What speakers do you?
A lot, actually.
What speakers do you prefer?
Maybe I can prefer. I have these. Maybe I can. Let's see if I can show you.
Yeah, take me on a ride. Anybody that's on video is about to get a little dizzy. Ooh, so nice.
This is so these are Genelex.
Genelex,
8351Bs with a W371 A maybe subs.
Cool.
They're not called subs because they're called low end extenders or something. But yeah, and they cost a fortune. But when I got them, it's like there's no guesswork, and I'm not in a perfect room, as you can see. I have like these gig acoustic things that I just put up because I'm in this room on a limited. Like eventually they're gonna tear it down and try to build apartments, but until then I can rent it for like nothing.
Nice.
Okay, I'm just failed my camera thing. Let's see, is this gonna work? No, it's gonna. Oh, here we go.
Beautiful.
Back here. So great speakers help.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I was always working on shitty speakers, and I learned those, and that's, I think, you can give the beginner listener. And in the first years, I tried to make gold out of crap, and I did the best I could. And some of the stuff I did back then, it doesn't sound horrible at all. It's just maybe not as luxurious, but still, it's not the Sonics,
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Like sonically, it might not be as sexy as today, but it's giving the emotions, and like especially with the hardcore punk rock stuff, it's mostly like,
Yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want as part of and like the stuff that you've shifted to and you have in your catalog. You've got a lot more like open and acoustic and like natural but also futuristic, like all kind of like modern but with naturalistic elements like acoustic guitars and soundscapes. That stuff requires great sonics. Otherwise, it sounds like crap. Those are like high wire acts. in some respects with mixing.
And if you, and I've also went down, I don't know if it's the right expression, but went down the rabbit hole of trying to change stuff too much. And if you're on, if when you're on good speakers, if you're on bad speakers in a bad room, there will be like frequencies and stuff that, standing waves that you just want to get out of there but they're not there. It's just your room and your crappy speakers fooling you. So like now I can really tell, okay, does this need a fix, or, will it float, to make a David Letterman? No, but and I think it's hard. The hardest thing is to know when to not do anything, because you want to work. You want to. I'm paid to mix this. Does it sound good? Especially with mastering, sometimes it's like they're paying me to change it, or are they? They just want my opinion, and maybe they just want me to push the limiter 1 dB. Sometimes, but then and I'm also guilty of sometimes just I probably need to do something with it. But the thing that takes the longest and most, you have to sort of mature as a person to realize when not to. And like I think that's when you're confident enough and you have enough work and I don't know when not to mess with it, I guess.
I like that a lot,
especially with mastering and mixing these days. I'm sent, sometimes it's stuff that the producer wants me to impose a sound on, but sometimes it's really do nothing to it. Like then sometimes the mixing is basically mastering, but with a second pair of ears. That's interesting as well.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting the way that it's evolved, and also I think it's interesting that there's kind of an interesting like curve that as you get more established and successful as a mix engineer, the tracks that you are sent generally go up in quality too. So it's this like feedback effect where you have to do less.
Right wing economic politics. It's like the better you get, the less you work. Which is kind of weird, but
it is weird.
But like I've worked many hours. In my life,
dues have been paid.
I deserve this. House. I deserve this. Okay, I'm guilty of. In audio, I'm a super right wing person. No, but it is like that. Like the higher level you reach, the less you have to do. But then the higher the stakes are as well.
Right. Yeah.
So the gamble, sort of the gamble, but you have to have a lot of more like the nerves, or like
I've got two more questions for you. Sure. One is on that. I wrote down that I wanted to talk to you about the nervousness from big jobs and the lessons learned from losing gigs.
Yeah, good segue as well. I think even to this day, I 90% of the work that comes in is like just, I come in, I sit down, I'm like, okay, I'm great, I'm the best, and sometimes, of course, I don't feel that confident, even with smaller stuff always, but usually it's like, okay, I know what to do, I'm making this better, definitely better. But then I had just the other week, I was like part of a mix shootout with a incredibly huge artist. I'm not going to mention who, but it's I think it's in the realm of 22 million monthly on Spotify. A huge Latin artist, and I know the producer well. We worked a lot, but it's like I get nervous. And it's I get so mad at myself because I'm like, then you start like second guessing, like, is this what I want? Would they want this? I'm like, and it's horrible. But I you sort of need to. And then I did like a mix. I can't remember if I don't think I sent it, but I returned the other day maybe, and then I was still like, okay, I couldn't, But then I sort of got myself together and like shook it off and like, okay, I'm just gonna do my absolute best, what I usually do, what I think is needed, and then just send it. And then I at least I know I did everything I could to like be true to myself, sort of, because otherwise I would be like, if I didn't get it, but that if I wouldn't have done that and didn't get it, I would be like, maybe it was because I didn't, So at least, just trust yourself. In high school, there was this course in something, I can't remember, but it was such a good that I still like to tell younger people who are like starting out, when it's about nervousness, it's like for performing or doing whatever. But imagine a plank on the floor, and you can easily like walk on it and balance on it, right? It's like, it's like this wide. It's fine. Like you can walk on it. If you put it 1 meter up, it feels a little bit harder, but you're doing the exact same thing. You're just walking on it, and it won't wobble. There's no, it's the exact same thing, but it feels worse. Put it 10 meters up in the air. It's still the exact same thing you have to do. You just have to walk on the plank, and there's no wind, there's no wobbliness, there's nothing. It's the exact same thing, but it feels harder. But you're just going to walk on it. And I think that stuck, and this is 20 years ago. Yeah. And I think that's so powerful. And I try to tell myself that sometimes as well. And from there, segueing into losing gigs, I think that's the best lesson, because with this gig that I didn't get, I don't feel bad about it. I learned so much from it. I'll get the next one, it's fine, or the one after that. But I was struggling during the pandemic because I lost, like, back then, like my live shows were like 80% of my business. And now it's like the opposite. Like now the studio is 80% and live is 20%. But then I was like, I got this full album with a Swedish artist, and I it was the communication with the producers was lacking, and I sort of looked up to them. So I didn't want to, what I would love to do was be like, go on the phone with them, talk about it, but they were so busy on like the next record with another huge artist. So I didn't want to bother them. So I had to like, okay, I think we need to communicate so I know what to do or know what not to do. And then I just sent, and then I did the mistake of asking like, do you want me to send a limited version as a reference or like no limiter? And they were like, no, keep it dynamic. And then I did and then my mixes weren't as loud as their -7 ref. And of course, it's never going to sound as good, even if my mix was way better. Yeah. So I just, and I learned so much. And I was, for like a week, I was like really fuck. And because they called me like, man, we're just going to go with this other dude we always use and I was so bummed about it. But there was so, like, you have to lose a bunch of gigs because you're gonna end up, and you need to learn. It's like, breaking up with girlfriends or boyfriends, partners, whatever. You need to get your heart broken a bunch of times to learn about that. And I think maybe that's why in the beginning it was so hard for me. I don't know, because I'm a sensitive guy. But I think that's such a good lesson because then you can sort of think back and just get better. So then I learned like, okay, I need to communicate, even if I'm being the I don't know, I talk a lot. Like maybe they'll think I'm annoying, but then I can actually deliver what matters. An amazing mix in the way they want it. Yes.
That's great. That's a great story. And on that, I'm curious, how do you get up the levels? This is a bonus question. When you're doing mixes, do you end up basically mastering your mixes when you're sending out to like a big client like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, because why wouldn't I? So the way my sessions are set up is everything goes to a master aux where I have the processing and my hardware insert. Like I have a hardware chain, with all the hardware stuff. It's like one chain, left, right, out, and it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I print that. It's not limited. And then I have the second stage, which is the mastering stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I print that. And then I do like overall, like if there's something, because usually I don't change the mix bus too much.
Yeah.
I might like shelf more highs or shelf more lows going into the hardware to make it work as I want.
Sure.
But then I would like apply my mastering stuff, which is like goes to my Culture Vulture tube thing and like distorts the hell out of it, and I just blend it in a bit.
Cool.
And then I print. So it's kind of an annoying process because I have to print. Like one mix is like print real time, and then print real time again, and then I'll bounce with limiters, and so it's like clippers and limiters, like volume stuff. But I absolutely, and I try to match or beat the rough mix level, because I learned that losing a job, not doing it. So, and sometimes my mixes without limiting is minus 11 LUFS. They're quite dense, and if it's a full
arrangement,
instrumentation song,
right, for sure.
But they're quite loud, and I can get loud without it being squashed with all my analog stuff, because it's transformers and tubes, and it won't sound like the compressors are hardly working. Like I sometimes see the needle work. I don't want to compress the two bus too much. But it's still giving it, and stuff. But I definitely like pre-master or master. Sometimes, like the mix one is mastered and ready to go to the ether. Happened the other day. I was like, really, you don't want it to change? I might want to go back. Okay, sure, just put it up. So it's pretty neat in that sense, and it's part of my my proposal. What do you call my business offer is? Like I mix and I master, and I offer free mastering for all the mixing clients. But if you want just a master, it's this. And it's just I will do it anyway. So
you're right. That's a good point.
It's free. It's free included. It's a good sales pitch, sort of. But now it's debunked.
I love it.
Okay.
All right, to my last real question. So this is the final. So this show is called Love Music More, and this section is called Love Music Why. And this is a section for you to just talk about why you love music. Like, what is it about music that makes you excited to come back the next day and hit the studio, or makes you excited to like just keep going and staying in this field? What is it that you continue to love about it? What it's about in music?
Wow, it's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's no wrong answer.
I just love music. No, but that's a boring answer. But I don't know. I've done it for so long. Even like back in the day, it was a hobby. I just want to do music. And some people ask me like, "Oh, don't you miss playing in bands?" And I'm like, this gives me maybe not equally, not like being on a festival stage and performing. It's not the same, but it gives me the equal amount of creativity and the emotions I can enhance or detract from the music. And maybe I'm just a master manipulator. I want to manipulate your feelings while listening, sort of. But I don't know why I do it. Yeah, that's going to be my answer.
I like it.
Very vague.
No, it's good. It's a vague question.
No, but I'm blessed to work with music every day, and I want to keep doing it. And I can pay my bills doing it. It's great. Even if I wouldn't, I would still be, doing music somehow. Maybe then I would be back in a band if I had a proper job in the evenings after the kids fall asleep. I don't know. But I'm blessed to do this, and I want to keep doing it.
Love that. So where can people find you? Where can people hire you?
Don't hire me. I've got enough work. I don't want more work. I want to have some time off in the summer. No, but I guess my my website is allinaudio.se, or my Instagram is at ggbrunn, BRUNN, at ggbrunn. And I mostly post pictures of my dog, my kids, and records I worked on. But feel free to join in on the fun. And send me an email. You can find everything on the website.
Cool. And I'll also link to that great Spotify playlist that you had, the what is it, Muso.ai
exactly, the discography. That's amazing. You should check out. You need to check out. I'm not affiliated. Muso.ai, I think, because they sort of automatically AI find all your credits, and it's amazing. And I think I'm gonna soon have reached 1,000 songs mastered. I think I'm like 980.
Cool.
So I might need some mastering jobs in the next weeks, so
mastering
I can hit
jobs.
1,000. 1K. I'll give out free mastering. You're the first one to hear free mastering for the 1,000 client. No, I don't know.
I love it.
I'll give you a free mastering. You'll get a free mastering.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that. I make a lot of music.
You're welcome. Amazing. This was really fun.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
It's going to be a lot of me talking about myself, but I love it. I love talking about myself.
That's a good thing.
Invite me to your podcast. I can talk about myself for hours.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great one. And I will I'll definitely take you up on that free mastering.
Yeah, sure.
and
you have my email address.
Sneak into your Spotify playlist. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. Well, thank you so much for
fun.
joining.
Thank you.